Africa's top 10 economies. Why Africa is world's next economic superpower. If I asked you to name the world's most dynamic economic region, what would you say? Silicon Valley? Southeast Asia? Think again. The real answer is Africa. We're no longer talking about future potential. We're talking about present power. In 2025, a handful of African nations are driving a $3.4 trillion market, transforming a continent once reliant on commodities into one defined by digital innovation, manufacturing, and unified trade. But here's the civic question. Will this booming wealth translate into stability, jobs, and prosperity for everyday citizens? The industrial backbone and its cracks. Africa's economic backbone is led by three giants by nominal GDP: South Africa, Egypt, and Algeria. South Africa, with an estimated GDP over $410 billion, remains the industrial behemoth. Deep financial markets, complex manufacturing, and mineral wealth. But civic reality hits hard. Inequality remains rampant. And load shedding, persistent power outages, cripples industrial output. The challenge isn't generating wealth. It's governing its fair distribution and ensuring reliable infrastructure. Egypt, a geopolitical trade engine thanks to the Suez Canal, follows closely. Its resilience is tested by soaring public debt and inflation. The cost of living crisis is a civic hurdle, even as infrastructure investments surge. Algeria, meanwhile, leans heavily on oil and gas. While this fuels state revenue, it breeds overdependence, stalling diversification and job creation for its youth. The digital revolution versus financial instability. Next up, the population giant and the tech disruptor, Nigeria and Kenya. Nigeria remains Africa's largest market, with a booming fintech sector and vast consumer base. But inflation has hit decade highs. Poverty is deepening, and naira volatility complicates trade. The civic lesson? Economic size means little without financial stability and public services that uplift the majority. Kenya, East Africa's engine, thrives on its Silicon Savannah. Tech isn't just a sector, it's a national strategy. Yet rising public debt threatens innovation. The question for policymakers: how do you manage borrowing costs without choking off growth? Redefining wealth. From GDP to PPP, looking at the full top 10, including Morocco, manufacturing and green energy, Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, agriculture meets industry, proves oil isn't essential to power. But to truly measure impact, we must consider purchasing power parity, PPP. Nominal GDP shows global muscle. GDP per capita adjusted for PPP reveals real living standards. That's why island nations like Seychelles and Mauritius top the PPP list. Their stable financial sectors and smaller populations mean wealth stretches further. PPP is the number that tells us whether policy choices reach citizens' pockets. It's the truest measure of economic dignity. The single unifying game changer, AfCFTA beyond national stats. The most transformative force is in TIA country. It is a framework. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. This landmark agreement is building a single market of 1.4 billion people. For decades, it was easier for African nations to trade with Europe than with neighbors. AfCFTA aims to tear down internal barriers, eliminate tariffs, and build regional value chains. It's a civic revolution, promoting made-in-Africa manufacturing and integrated supply chains. The rise of Senegal, gas exports and infrastructure, and Rwanda, digital innovation, depends on AfCFTA's success. The path forward despite momentum, Africa faces deep-rooted challenges. Debt and inflation, high debt servicing limits, spending on health, education, and infrastructure. Infrastructure gaps, energy shortages and poor transport bottleneck industrial growth. Political fragility. Instability displaces populations and deters long-term investment. Climate change. Extreme weather threatens agriculture, hitting the poorest hardest. The promise of Africa's top 10 isn't just GDP projections. The true civic story is whether leaders can implement painful but necessary reforms, diversify economies, invest in green energy and digital skills, and ensure political and financial stability. If these goals are met, the next decade won't just spotlight a few powerhouses. It will redefine Africa as a unified, prosperous global player. Conclusion and call to action. Africa's top 10 economies tell a story of resilience, reform, and civic opportunity. It's a complex narrative, where a trillion-dollar future hinges on solving today's governance and infrastructure puzzles. Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive into Africa's economic power shift. What do you think is the continent's greatest opportunity or biggest hurdle? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis resonated, give it a like and subscribe for more content connecting global economics to civic realities. We'll see you in the next one.